immigration or migrants is a political hot potato globally. In the United States of America, you actually have some of the southern states shipping them by the busloads to Democrat states, saying, you support this, you keep them, you look after them. In England, there's this entire debate of send them back on the ships, right? We are not the first country to be looking at this in a way that often divides us. You've heard all the arguments. Are you more convinced?
Not at all. In fact, this is kind of a selective picking out from each country where we want to justify the CAA. That's fine, but we have always been accepting Hindu migrants from Pakistan. I belong to Gujarat, in Gujarat and Rajasthan. There are a whole lot of them. They undergo a process and then they are awarded citizenships. Regularly, I know people who work, to expedite those citizenships. So that is the spirit which has to be kept alive. But CA in its present form is, I don't know how it is helping our society. It is polarizing our society. It is giving huge sense of fear and insecurity to the largest minority, namely the Muslims. It's also a question of priorities, Barkha. We are on the cusp of yet another general election. There are so many other priorities: the economy, the young people needing jobs, post-COVID, the health facilities for the poor Indians. There are so many other priorities. Why do we want to pick out, CAA and displease and give insecurity to our own citizens, and a sizable number of our own citizens? So it's also a question of how empathetically and compassionately policies and laws are rolled out. I think that is very, very important. When we are taking examples, we certainly do not want to follow the example of Pakistan in any which way. And General Saab, I beg to differ, because so many of them who migrated to Pakistan at that time, they are long dead and gone. And I'm sure a lot of their children and grandchildren admire India for what it is, for the kind of a liberal democracy that we are. So actually, so it's also a leadership position that we have in the subcontinent, and I think we should be quite mindful of that.
I'm glad you brought up this point about partition, because I did want to, you reminded me that I wanted to say that, partition, when it took place, General Katoch, and I know, Abhijit, you have one brief interjection, but just to make one point before I forget it, partition, when it took place, a lot of people thought it was temporary. They didn't fully necessarily understand the redrawing of these borders, the choices they were making. I'm sure there were many who did, but not everybody did. There were also Hindu families who left their homes with just one tala, thinking that they'll be able to go back one day. So let's also acknowledge that it was not this very concrete, neat event that took place where people made very neat choices for the future. Abhijit, you had a brief interjection, then General Katoch, and then Sanjay can have the closing word. Abhijit?
And Barkha, I just wanted to re-emphasize the security point. Every time I go to America, Israel, or the Schengen zone, almost every single time I have been taken for secondary interrogation. I suspect it has nothing to do with my shady face or my shady looks, and it has a lot more to do with the Afghan, Syrian, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan stamps on my passport. Right. Similarly, every time I have been to Syria, especially Syria and Lebanon, were nightmares, because I have several Israeli stamps on my passport, and I had to spend almost 7 hours at the airport out there doing secondary interrogation. It's very simple. Every country applies a pick and choose selectivity and security screening of countries that they believe are a threat. So there's nothing unusual about it. It is not violative of any human rights. Why would you take aside a white man who has never been to Pakistan, Syria, Afghanistan, and interrogate him, when there is a guy like me who?
But that's on the basis of the passports, not on the basis of the religion.
Yes, and this is very much a passport issue. It's Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. What passports are they going to have? Taliban issued passports, army issued passports.
Well, now you have the Taliban in government, so Taliban issued passports are going to be a reality. We do live in strange times. General Katoch, do go ahead.
I'll be very brief. Zakia ji has said, there are other priorities. My take on this. So many things have to take place simultaneously. It isn't that, okay, because we have got to eliminate hunger, we won't do anything else. There are multiple activities which will take place at all times. And I think that is part of the game. I don't, why are people saying this is divisive? It is being deliberately misinterpreted. It does not apply to Indians at all, regardless of which Indian you are, what your religious belief is. it applies to specifically 3 countries, and that is something which has, which is the leftover of partition, a promise we gave to those minorities. And there was a feeling because that the Muslim rulers there will kill, will rape, will do all those things. And that is why that guarantee was given by a person no less than Mahatma Gandhi. And if somebody says he was communal, well, so be it, right? But he gave that, and he made that statement. He said, if you Hindus and Sikhs want to come back, we will take you back. Why did he say that? Because of that fear. And now that fear is, I think the Indian Muslims should look at it in a different way. They should say, though the Muslims in Pakistan and Bangladesh and Afghanistan have done something wrong, we will take our Hindu brothers back. They will not say it. And I think that is where our secularism is lacking. It is one way. This Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb is only one-sided. I would like it to be both sides. I would like them also to come forward and say, we are with you, instead of we are against you. And I think that is the problem of India. And that is something Bharat needs to address now. Barkha.
Sanjay, what do you think is the immediate ramification? You said that the concerns are not much more than 4 years ago. But what happens now? It's confusing to me, actually. I was trying to understand, because while we know the CAA is notified, the NRC is not nationally implemented. The national population of the national, what was it? NPR, the National Population Register.
National Register.
This was, this was started in 2010, by the way, not even in this government. So that's where this whole story actually started. So what happens now?
Well, right now, what the government has done is to achieve its object of polarization and distraction. That's all that has happened. In strictly legal terms, things which have to happen will happen only after the elections. People will have an opportunity to apply for Indian citizenship. The government will process them. In the meanwhile, the Supreme Court will go ahead and decide whether the law is constitutional or not constitutional. But fundamentally, this is the objection to this CAA, that we are a country which does not have a preferred religion or a despised religion. We have now, at least for the purposes of granting citizenship, said that these people are preferred. These people, please go to the back of the bus. That is the problem.